I know. We'll have to harass her about it. So, well, good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lisa Donovan. I do the books for the church, and I have to correct Kelly's ad to the bulletin that I'm an expert on fraud prevention. I would say that I learned the hard way on how to deal with fraud prevention, and I have a short devotion that I'll go through that will help explain how I learned what I know about fraud in our electronic age. I'll start with John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. And when we're dealing with fraud, we have to look and know what truth is in order to understand what fraud is. In 2018, after being defrauded out of several $100,000 at my company, I was tasked with coming up with a program to help prevent fraud in the banking we received from our vendors. To think that it just came up, it was just a few years ago, seems crazy, because fraud in the electronic age has increased exponentially. And fraud has been since man has begun. Obviously, men want to take what is not theirs because it's easier that way. But like sin that creeps into life unprotected, fraud is refined to match the times we live in. 20 years ago, a child couldn't look at porn on a handheld computer called a cell phone. And 20 years ago, banking wasn't sent via email. Banking, you were not called on the phone to give a reason why you should give somebody some money who you do not know. It didn't happen, but it does now. So let me tell you about the tough part of the task. That losing that, it was over $500,000. Losing that $500,000 was my fault. The fraud was caused by one little letter and an email address. The fraudster had hacked the vendor's email, and just by creating a domain name with one extra letter, they had circumvented the vendor's email. The fraudulent vendor sent us new banking using a known name. It was honestly a vendor who I probably spoke with 2 or 3 times a month, so I was very familiar with that vendor. I knew that, sorry, I just lost my spot. So I changed the banking. I got the information from this person. Our AP clerk did their due diligence that we did at the time, and I changed the banking. There were other factors that happened when I changed that banking, and I will explain this a little bit later, but on that same day, my husband had arm surgery, and as soon as he was done with arm surgery, we were heading up to Twin Falls because my dad was dying. So there were all these factors that led to my lack of diligence and my lack of knowledge. And just so that you understand, these fraudsters know when your Social Security check is coming. They know when states pay out for PERS. They know when these things come out because they're public knowledge. And so there are going to be times where you are more vulnerable to fraud because of what's happening. It can be within your company. If you work with a company, they know when your quarter end is, they know when your half year is, and they know when your year end is. They know when you're busy, and they will typically harass you at those times. So here I was responsible for my company suffering a major loss, not because I was malicious, but because I was unaware. And this was the first and biggest loss that we had received in the digital age, and I didn't know if I would have a job. All of a sudden you have your CFO of your company in your office, which is not typically a good thing. You have your boss's boss, and the FBI in my office. And it was intimidating. And so I had to sit down. Now I will tell you, as Christians, I was sitting in my office going, okay, God, what do I do? I obviously have to make a change for our company. And I was given that job. They're like, okay, Lisa, we have to do something better. Because even 15 years ago, electronic banking was not as prominent as it is right now. And I would bet each of you have some form of bill pay. You may have PayPal, you may have Venmo, you may use your bank for bill pay. Those are all electronic forms of payment that you need to be aware of. And so I'm trying to take my business experience from this and help you apply it to your personal needs as well. One of the first things that I did was a critical examination of that email. Fraud prevention was not even in the background with our servers, or we didn't have a fraud prevention group in our company to speak of. We had IT guys that kind of watched email and that kind of thing, but not necessarily for banking information or for receiving information from vendors. You guys, unfortunately, are tasked to pay attention to your own emails and your own phone calls. You don't have that backup that I do at the mine. And so all of a sudden you have to take on that responsibility. After 5 years, that's evolved. There are 100 ways for them to take your money, and they will do it if they can. Other requirements that we have certain forms that have to be filled out by the vendor. They have to answer specific questions. I won't give you those forms that we require or the specific questions that we require, because that's part of our internal process at the mine. But I will tell you, I will give you ways that you can definitely fight for yourself. After several months, it became clear that one step in this process was critical. So critical that after 5 years, it is absolutely required of every person that is in my group to take this step. If they don't take this step, they actually have to come back to me for retraining. And if they continue not to take this step, they get written up and possibly fired, because it's so critical. And it's just something that you can use for yourself. It wasn't originally part of our first step, but it is now. We're learning how fraudsters operate. Usually 3 to 4 times a month in my company, we see forms of fraud, but depending on what time of year, it's escalated. Like usually around Christmas, it's very escalated. Mid-year, usually in July, August, it's escalated, and because they know that you're busy with different things with accounting. For you guys, it's going to be during times when you receive maybe a deposit from Social Security, from your retirement. There are going to be times that they know that something's going to happen with you. One of the things, as the months passed, after I developed the process for our group, I noticed that a clerk would tell me they had called the vendor, and no, they were not changing the banking. Yes, they could tell, the clerk could tell that something was wrong with the email. It was poorly written. The grammar wasn't good. There were high demands on, hey, I need to be paid tomorrow because my books are closing. I'm going to use a different bank account. Use this bank account because we're having an audit. So they gave us different reasons. Every time the clerk called the vendor and the vendor said no, we knew exactly what was going on. We developed what was called a clear process of stop and call. So, and this is what I'm going to ask of you guys when you're protecting yourself: stop and call. And I'll explain that a little further as we go on. When banking information comes into our office, this is the first step, always. They are not allowed to send out any forms. They are not allowed to reply to the email. They are not allowed to have any contact with anything on that email, whether it be phone number, email address, additional people who they think they might know. There's no contact at all. As a part of this step, they have to verify a contact. That doesn't mean look on the email, their email address is there, and guess what? I'm going to call. There's a phone number there. I'm going to call that phone number. And think this through. If that's a fraudulent email, who are you calling? You're calling Joe Fraudster. Okay. And you have to have reliable ways of contacting. That's why with your bank, you should know your bank's phone number. Have it somewhere. With Google or Amazon or whatever, have a contact that has nothing to do with any email, but have it for yourself. Because I think well in analogies, I realize that this process can be used in our Christian life as well. Only I will call it stop and read. And the reason why I'm using this analogy is because we know that looking at Christ and what Christ says is truth. And so if we can apply that to our lives as far as fraud, we can realize that we have to look for absolute truth. We know that God gives us a very clear way to root out fraud in Christianity. He gives us the Bible, right? And we need to be able to be willing to say, where does it say that in the Bible when we're talking to people who are giving us extra biblical information? If you're a person, that is easily swayed, then that's going to be difficult for you. We've had, let me go back. Satan will attack us in the guise of a slight difference of theology, just like fraudsters will in electronics. But it sounds mostly good, a movement that is sensational, a doctrine that seems right, good intentions, worldly things that seem harmless, but are not approved of in the Bible. The list goes on. But unlike the answer to cyber fraud, which will keep changing as long as we breathe, God gives us a very clear way to root out fraud. Stop and read. Every wind of fancy that blows through our life should be met with, where does it say that in the Bible? Which equals stop and read the Bible. The best way to detect fraud is to know what truth is. At our company, we found that going first to the source of truth, a real-life person who works for the real-life company, provided the protection that we need 100% of the time. And that is, we have found that over the last 6 years, we did have a loss this last year. I will tell you that it was not because the procedure wasn't followed. Well, I will tell you that it was because the procedure wasn't followed, and it started at the stop and call process. The person did not follow that one step, and we lost money. And granted, it's embarrassing. You have to answer for it, and as a result, my consequence is I ended up having 2 audits this year so far, which typically I'm only under audit 1 time a year, and it's the world's longest audit, really, is what it's been. But we just have to be aware of Satan's attacks, and that's how fraud is. You always have to be thinking that if somebody's contacting you for money, you need to assume they're fraudulent. Don't assume that their intentions are good, ever. Be aware, because Satan is out there to attack, and that's the same way with fraudsters. When visiting with folks and they're talking about areas that are biblical, if you do not know, if you don't know where it says it in the scripture, ask the question, where does it say that in the Bible? It's one of the things I love about my mom. My mom, she has this memory that is fantastic for the Bible. It seems like she can quote every verse in the Bible. She can't, but she knows it. But when people say stuff, and usually I look at my mom and I can tell that she already knows it's not in the Bible, but she'll say, so where is that in the Bible? We need to be that kind of person, whether it's fraud prevention for our money or fraud prevention for Christianity. When listening to Christian radio, beware of poor theology. My best example, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this song, There's Only Love in the Heart of God. Does anybody have any problem with that theology? You should. Because where does it say that in the Bible, right? Because is God only love? No. So when we look at that, even areas where we think things are good, we have to be cautious and wary. So we need to live in a way that basically says, challenge areas, challenge everything that is not truth. And that goes for if it's in the Bible or if it's fraud. So we're going to start looking at fraud in an electronic age, and we are a very electronic age. We are lucky we have these big TVs. We have the ability to go through these. So electronic fraud is so prevalent that the FBI no longer investigates, which I could only be so lucky, only investigates anything. They don't investigate it unless it's over $1 million, unless there's some sort of extenuating circumstance. There might have been some child trafficking or something that went along with that fraud. If it's under $1 million, they can try to leave it up to your local authorities, but they're not even going to show up anymore because it's so prevalent. Senior citizens are a huge target. I will tell you, I asked my mom's permission. She was actually defrauded out of quite a lot of money about 2 months ago. And of course, I'm like, Mom, that's what I do for a living. Why wouldn't you call me? But she was embarrassed. It's embarrassing. You don't want people to know that you've lost a large amount of money because you weren't aware. And so if you can walk away today with an awareness of, what do I do if this happens? Then you will be much better off. and we've already talked about this, how fraudsters leverage times when they know that you're getting money, Social Security, PERS payments, when your company pays out dividends or whatever, they know when payrolls come out. So be cautious. Now, as we look at this, I'm not sure if you can see it, because frankly, I can't see it because it's too small. But they've had, this is just 2023, 2.6 million fraud reports. The last fraud that we actually had this last year, who do we report it to? Well, we report it to the bank, but you don't necessarily report it to an agency because it was under a certain amount. The FBI was called by the company that got defrauded. And understand, like with our company, if we pay out $60,000 to a vendor, that money, you might or might not go get it back depending on if they're able to close that bank account fast enough, and you still have to pay the vendor again. So basically you've doubled the amount. So as you start looking at it, investment scams are a big thing. Hey, I have a sure thing for you. Invest in this. I have a business that's going to benefit you. You're going to make tons of money. That's a good one. It's usually not true. You start looking at the social media. Hey, if you buy this through social media, you know, if you're ever on Facebook or wherever and they have all these little ads and you click on them, a couple of things could happen there. You could be clicking on a malicious link that could be downloading something to your computer, to your phone, whatever. But it also can open you up to the best deal you've ever seen that will take all your money. So there's lots of different ways that you can be defrauded. So tactics. The first one that we'll talk about, and what brought this up was when Pastor Jeff, I don't know if you guys got the email about his email, sending out an email so that he could surprise the staff with money. And we'll go through his email here in a minute. Names can be changed. So if you have an email address, our email address that I use here is rmbcfinances@gmail.com. Well, what these people will do is they'll create a new domain name, and it could say RMBCFLNANCES instead of FI. How many of us are looking for that when you're looking at an email address? Okay, so then all of a sudden they've changed the name. You think you're getting an email from Ruby Mountain, from me, the bookkeeper at the church, and you're not. And so when you receive an email, it's worth it. You can hover over an email address. Let me see if I don't know if I can give you an example of that, but if you hover over an email address with your mouse, you can actually see, usually, because a lot of times they use an M for an N, or vice versa. L's and I's are really typical. And if you're just going through your email, looking through things real fast and trying to be efficient, you're not going to see it. But they've become so sophisticated that a lot of times it's not on the email address. You actually have to hit reply, and you don't see that change until you hit reply. And sometimes if you can't see it, you could actually copy it and paste it into a Word document and make it a larger font if you have a problem with it. And I would say if anybody is requesting money from you, do it. It's worth it because, and we'll talk about a few things, but they use a lot of pressure tactics to try and get your money. We're going to shut down your account. We're going to... you owe us, we're going to send you to collections. Well, nobody wants to be sent to collections, right? It makes us all panic. And I know with my mom, they really pressured her into thinking, my credit's going to be ruined. What am I going to do? And what ended up happening is they said it was McAfee virus, which is kind of strange because who do we rely on to help protect our computers a lot of times, right? So she got this phone call and, hey, your McAfee has expired. You haven't paid us for such and such long. We're going to turn you into collections. Well, I'll tell you, hang up and call somebody real. But rather than doing that, she was intimidated. Well, what they told her is, okay, so can you go take this out of your bank and change it into cryptocurrency. Now, me doing what I do for a living, I'm like, what? Because cryptocurrency is like throwing your money in the air and just going, hey, I hope it lands somewhere good, because it's not going to land on you. And the idea, could you go get a bunch of Apple gift cards? Yeah, I'm telling you, nobody pays their bills with Apple gift cards. Does anybody in here? I'm sure you don't, right? And so our next one is McAfee Dell saying something is wrong with your account. One of the things they'll ask you is, I need to breeze into your computer. There might be other words that they use for it. So they'll say, hey, can you give me access to your computer? I'll come in, I'll fix the problem. We can deal with it, and you won't have to worry about it. Well, when they do that, then all of a sudden you've opened them up to all your data, possibly passwords, unless you have a locker for your passwords. It's called a locker that you can get on your computer that will store all your passwords, and you have to have two identifications to get into there. Most people don't have that on their computers. And so they're going to go in and fix your account, or they're not. Well, trust me, they're not. Unless you have talked with Dell personally, which I will tell you from a accounts payable standpoint, Dell is ridiculous to get in contact with. So if you've actually gotten in contact with somebody from Dell, it might be fraud, because they're terrible to get in contact with. New job opportunities. Hey, we have this business. A lot of them may present as MLMs, multi-level marketing, to where you sign up under so-and-so. A lot of those can show up that way. One of the things that's very new, and it will become more prevalent, is called AI spoofing. What they will do is they a lot of times will call your phone. They will be spam, and they will actually ask you basically to say certain words into the phone. By doing that, saying even yes or no, they actually can pick up on your voice's intonations and use that. And then all of a sudden your grandson's calling you and saying, hey, Grandma, I'm in jail. Could you send me money to bail me out? And it's going to sound like them, because they've somehow spoofed them via AI. And AI it's a little bit scary. And so there's something that you can do for that, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Converting to cryptocurrency gift cards or bank transfers. This is one of the biggest things you need to hear. Anytime you remove money from your account, the bank is not liable to help you in any way, shape, or form with that fraud. If you say, I'm going to take this out and change it to cryptocurrency, I'm going to take it out and put it into a gift card, the bank is no longer liable for what happens with that fraud. And if you can't hear anything else, hear that. So if somebody's saying, you need to go write me a check and send it to so-and-so, and then we'll take care of this problem. You've taken that money out of your account willingly, and the bank has nothing for you. Now, if somebody comes into your bank account and takes it out without your knowledge, the bank is liable at that point. But if you choose to take that out, to change it to cryptocurrency, to a gift card, it's on you. There's nothing that you can do, and you will not get any of that money back from the bank. So hear that if you hear nothing else. You're past due on your taxes or a bill. And I have it later, well, it's right there. In Elko, you may receive a phone call. This is Nevada Energy. Your account is past due, and if you don't pay us, we're shutting off your electricity this afternoon. And this is actually a known scam. Our sheriff, H.R. Narvaeza, actually put it out on a press release that, hey, don't fall for this, because anybody who calls you saying, can I get your money, you always have to be suspicious of, and it is a known scam around Elko right now. Prizes and sweepstakes. You have won $2 million, but you have to send me $2,000 to get it. Don't do it. Amazon packages that say they were delivered, or they're delivered to your house, but they weren't ordered. What they'll have you do is they'll have you scan a QR code. That QR code opens you up to this fraudster. So if you receive a package that's not yours, do not scan anything on a QR code for it. Send it back. You can contact Amazon through their website and say, hey, I received this package. I didn't order it. You actually can go into town. I think it's is it the UPS store over by Albertsons? You can actually just drop it off there. So you don't have to scan a thing. Take it back to the office and say, hey, I received this. I wasn't supposed to. Send it back. You don't have to scan anything that compromises your personal information. QR codes in public. This is kind of a popular thing. Sometimes you go to a restaurant and they say, our menu's on the QR code. That's how you look it up. And you're like, just give me a piece of paper. But so they have you scan it. Well, what people can do is just put a sticker over that QR code that has their current QR code. And then all of a sudden you've opened up to that. And so people are very tricky and you need to be careful. Impersonation links. You receive a link in your email. This is UPS. Your package is on the way. Please, please click this link. Be careful clicking links, any link. If you know you have a package coming, like if you have a package coming from Amazon, how do you find out where your package is coming from Amazon? You go to Amazon and you click on your account and you find out when your package is coming. You don't necessarily need to get a link from UPS. Sorry, I went too far there. Let's see here. Renewal scams. Your Amazon subscription needs to be renewed. If you know how your Amazon subscription needs to be renewed, they don't notify you. They just renew it, right? So if there's a renewal coming up, maybe keeping a list of renewals that you have for different subscriptions that you might have would be really good, because then I watch my account, and when I know if I have a subscription coming up, then I just try and pay attention to it. But if they're sending you a link, hey, you have not renewed this, that's where you need to be careful. If one of the things that they do, and I'm sorry that you will never be able to fix this, is they will actually just run credit cards. They actually have this machine that will run through random numbers, and if that random number hits on a card that's open, they will actually remove, they'll set a trip to India on your credit card because it was open. Now what will happen at that point is your bank should contact you. They typically will not contact you personally. They will contact you through a voicemail, and it's just automated, and they'll say, call this number. Now I will tell you, that's good, because you don't want to be talking to them, because we know there's a money problem. But what I would do is I would go to the company's main website and find the phone number and then click to get to their fraud prevention program. Rather than even calling that phone number back that they give you on the phone, I would take the extra step and go, okay, they have given me this phone number. It may be right or it may not be right, but I'm going to take the extra step to protect myself. If you have had several fraud attempts on your credit card or debit card, I would say at that point you need to be paying attention to yourself. What am I doing? Why is this happening? Is it certain times of the month where I'm doing, I'm in a specific place? Maybe, and we'll just use JCPenney as the option. Maybe once a month you go to the JCPenney sale and you've had 3 fraud attempts on that day. And that's really the only thing that you do. You could probably trace back. Maybe there's a skimmer on one of their machines. And we'll talk here in a minute about what a skimmer is. So pay attention to your habits especially if you're getting fraud on a credit card. You are protected on your credit card and debit card, but you do need to pay attention to what you're doing with that card. Are you going to the gas station and filling up with gas, and seems like every time you've gone to the gas station you've had a problem? So then you can start thinking, what's going on there? They will tell you that your Social Security is going to be suspended if you don't comply. They'll ask you for personal information, or they'll ask you you're going to get a cost of living raise, but you need to give us your bank account and your routing number. Well, don't you think the Social Security group has that already? right? So you have to just start thinking logically. And like I said, anytime somebody's calling you or emailing you, be suspicious. And honestly, when it comes to anything with money, after being in the industry that I'm in, I am always suspicious. It never fails. They can do things like threaten to seize your bank account. They will direct message you on social media. Hey, this is Ed. I know we haven't met before, but Val Herman gave me your name, and we're gonna. She said that you'd be interested in doing this project with me. What my first response would not be to answer him, but to go, Val, what are you thinking? Don't be giving my name out. And she'd go, I didn't. So instead of responding back to that person, I'm going straight to the source. Offer to move money to a protected bank account. Hey, your bank account has been compromised. We need to move your money to a protected bank account. So, and you're going to think, hey, I'm talking to the bank, and you're not. They demand secrecy. You don't need to tell anybody about this. Romance schemes. My mom found this after my dad passed away. She got more email or messages on Facebook from guys who thought, you're just really a sweet looking lady. Can I help you through this process? And I'm just going, no, they can't. Yes, Val.
So one thing I've noticed with that, with my mother-in-law, is a lot of them that are messaging her are in the military.
Yes.
She instantly goes, they're in the military, they have to be good people.
Yes, because it looks honorable. Yeah, and so if somebody's direct messaging you on Facebook and you don't know them, block them. That's just that easy. They'll text. They can use the process of texting malicious links to your phone due to late payments, urgent notices, bank fines, and all of those things. If you're like me, I don't want a bank fine. You know, it's like you're getting in trouble. And never, never, never give out your bank account unless you have a valid reason to do it and you know exactly who you are talking to. And you're going to say, well, how do I do that? There's a way. But first, I wanted to look at this email from Pastor Jeff, and I wanted to show you what I would look at as at an email, and I'm not sure how well you can see that because it's pretty small. But one of our members of the church received this email from Pastor Jeff. It was top secret, and so, which, if you know Pastor Jeff at all, he would call you and talk to you for one thing. If he really had something, hey, I'm going to do something fun, I'm going to bless our staff, he wouldn't be going, hey, I'm in a prayer meeting, so don't call me at all, but let's do this. So as I look at it, he's basically saying to this member of our church, I want to do something for our staff. I'd like to pay them a little bit more money. Could you contribute? Well, have any of you ever heard any member of our elders say, hey, could you give us some money? No. As a church, we know how we operate as a church. Now, there are times where we want to do a love gift, but it's put out not necessarily top secretly, but it's put out in a way that everybody would know it. We're not sending it to one person. And then you start looking at his reply. Dr. Jeff South, we've never heard Dr. Jeff South call himself Dr. Jeff South, ever. I've never seen him sign off on an email, senior pastor. And there's so many things about this email that I go, oh, red flag, red flag. And then you look at his email address. If you know our church email addresses or Jeff South's email address, this is not even close to either of the ones that I would get emails from him. So if you know your sender, you're going to be able to look at this and go, yeah, his email address, that's not right. Because one will either come from RMBC or his personal email address. And typically, if I get ones from his personal email address, I'm asking something about theology. And if I get one from his business address, I'm asking something about business. So I know it well enough. But you start looking at it, it has our address. It's correct. You look at things, and part of it looks correct. And it's correct enough that this person originally responded to this fraudster because, well, of course, why wouldn't I respond to Pastor Jeff? Right? because we all love him, we know him, and we respect him. But then you start looking at it, these cards are a surprise. You can keep one for yourself too. Why would he give somebody who's not part of our staff a surprise card too? You know what I mean? So it's like a little hook that they have. Hey, you can be in on it too. Can you get this done today? There's always an urgency. Always an urgency. And so anytime someone is pushing you, this has got to be done today. Well, it has to be done at least by the end of the week. Wait. Now, at this point, what I would do, I would stop and I would call Jeff. Okay, so what's going on? Explain this to me. Is this coming out of the church account? What are you talking about? Now, granted, this person wouldn't know that, but I would be calling him, asking him. Let me get a drink here real quick. So, how do you defend yourself? Personal contact. Your grandson's on the phone. I need $5,000 for bail. I'm in jail. This is what I will do and do. I hang up the phone. You know what? Let me call you back. If I really thought it was my grandson or whatever, let me call you back. See what we can do. And then I'd call my grandson. Now, pay attention to the phone numbers that you receive on your phone, because most of us have caller ID on our phone, right? Pay attention to that phone number. Does your grandson's phone number say his name? Yeah, right? So all of a sudden you've answered a phone call, and because you're frazzled and think, oh my gosh, what happened to him? Is he okay? Is he falsely accused? Rather than doing that, hang up on him and call him. And one of the things we were getting for a while, we have a warrant for Wes Donovan's arrest. We need you to pay this amount, or we will be coming out and putting him in jail. Well, I knew for a fact that Wes didn't have warrants out for his arrest, and they kept calling and kept calling and kept calling. Well, I decided I was going to put the police non-emergency phone number next to my phone. And the next time they called me, I said, he doesn't live here anymore. Let me give you his phone number and you can call him. And I gave them the police non-emergency phone number because they weren't going to leave me alone. Guess what? They didn't call me anymore. So you don't have to be nice. Pay attention to the verbiage that the person uses as they're calling you. Are they speaking broken English? That might be a sign. And are they understanding everything they're talking to you about? John and I were talking about this yesterday. He was getting phone calls, and the names of the people were Looney Tune characters. And you may be flustered enough that you're not paying attention to that. So slow yourself down. Don't panic. And then hang up on them and then call. If it's, hey, this is the Elko County Sheriff's Office, guess what? You can call the Elko County Sheriff's Office anytime. Call the non-emergency number. You can find out the truth. But personal contact. Don't continue your contact via the phone, and don't continue your contact via email. Hang up on them. Go find a valid phone number and find out. Do not respond to any email. Do not hit reply all. Do not hit forward. Do not reply to emails that are requesting any money or personal contact information. If you need to email the company and you have a valid email, do not use the email on the address or on the email. Start a new email. Rather than replying, start a new email, because you don't know if they have malicious software, spyware, Trojans. There's all sorts of things that they can connect to an email. You don't know if there's a connection to that. Start a new email, start a new subject line, so that you can pay attention to, okay, if their email said, you are in arrears or something like that, you start an email that says inquiry or something like that, so that if it comes in, you're going to know, did this come from the fraudulent people or did this come from me? And like I said, do not hit reply all, do not hit forward, because if you're forwarding it to somebody, you could be sending them about a can of worms that they don't want either. So what we do with our company when we get fraudulent emails, we actually have the ability to send it to this program that notifies our department very quickly. But if we're trying to do an investigation on it, we actually do print screens rather than sending that email anywhere. And by doing that, a print screen can't send any information because we're not replying, we're not forwarding. It just is basically a picture. So like you have taken a picture with your phone, you can't send any information that way. Never give out any personal information, including the following: your social security number, your phone number, your address. If the bank is calling you, they should know. If you're calling the bank, a lot of times they will use that for a verification, but we're calling them, right? If they're calling you, they should know it. If this is a valid call, they will be able to say, hey, we received fraud from you. But like I said, most of the time that's an automated call and you call them back. Use strong passwords and possibly password storage if you have the ability to do that. They do make programs that, like I said, they're called password lockers, or there's just different names for them, that you can actually do two-bit verification. So you type in your email and then you they email you, they text your phone and give you a verification code. I really like two-bit verifications because it's two ways that they have to verify that you are who you are. NordPass is one, Bitdefender is another one. So there's different ways that you can look that up and protect your passwords and help you remember those passwords, because passwords are, I'm pretty sure, from Satan. So because they just, at work, we're lucky at our work. We have, it's called a single sign-on, but poor Wes at his company, he has 20 passwords he has to remember to get into this program and this program. And for doing what I do, I have to have a very secure password. If I had to remember it to get into every site, I'd be a mess. Make sure that you hover over email addresses. Any email address that's requesting funds, requesting personal information, hover over that email. Look at all the letters in that email. Has anything been changed? Does it look strange? If you're not sure, copy it, paste it into a Word document, and make it big to where you can look at it. Watch for grammatical errors. One of the funniest grammatical errors that I found, for a while I was doing banking for one of our Central America companies, and because there was a language difference, it was a little bit hard for them when they were sending banking. Well, the banking letter said, we're having tissues with our banking. And they sent this other company sent me this information. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? You're having tissues? You know what I mean? So you start looking at it. That's pretty telling that the person writing that letter had issues. But then we went through the rest of the letter. There were grammatical errors, run-on sentences. If you're sending a professional letter out, I would hope that you could do better than that. Another thing that you can do, never let a requester join your computer ever. Now at the bank, there have been a couple times where I'm at the bank, we're trying to look at something with an investment, and we allowed the banker to join my phone so that we could look at something on there. But I was sitting right there with her. I knew what we were looking for, and the minute that she was done, I could see that she had signed off of it. If you're on the phone with somebody and they want to join your computer, don't do it. It's not worth it. You can ask for the request in writing. Hey, you owe us $5,000. You haven't paid your bill. Okay, could you send that request to me in writing so that I can make sure that I'm sending money to the right spot? I'll send you a check. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes a regular check anymore. So, send me all of that information. I will make sure that I look at it. You could even say if you want, because sometimes I get a little naughty, but I'm like, I'll discuss this with my lawyer and then we'll get back to you. You know what I mean? Because then a lot of times they'll hang up on you. But if they truly do know you, if it's truly a problem, you would have probably heard about it for right now. If you truly are their customers, they will be able to comply with that request. And by law, I believe they are required to, if there's a problem, I believe they're required to do that. If they ask for your address, say you should already have it. Please send it to the address on file. Could you tell me what address you have on file? Push them back. Can you confirm what address you have on file for me? No, I can't. I'm sorry. Guess we're done. Do not put your personal information out on social media. A lot of times we use Ruby One Ads. Wes will sell tools or whatever since he's retired. I don't put her address on the map because you can actually show on a GPS map where your address is. I don't put it on there. I don't put our full name on there. Just be careful. If you're widowed, don't necessarily put on there. If you're on vacation, don't put your current, hey, I'm on vacation with my friends. The time to post vacation videos or pictures is after you're back because they pay attention. They just know. And if you can use two-factor authentication, it does crack me up that CVS uses two-factor authentication to look at your prescriptions, which is not a bad idea, but if you have the ability to make something a two-factor authentication, do it. If you use online banking, that's a really good option to do that, because every once in a while you'll get a notification, is this you trying to sign on to this account? And it's not. And guess what? If you don't confirm it, whoever is trying to authenticate your account can't get into it either, because if you don't reply to that request for authentication, the authenticator can't send them a code. So it's a really good way to protect yourself. If you are an NGM employee or somebody from your family is an NGM employee, they actually have all-state identity protection. And because they have that, or if you have a family member that has that and is not part of NGM, that actually allows for you could actually have your parents on that, and your kids on that as well. And it's not free to you because that's obviously a benefit you have to pay for, but it can allow for your whole family. And like, that doesn't mean you know your parents' business, or my mom is on my all-state identity protection. She runs her own account. I have no clue what's going on with hers, but it's a way that she can be protected. You can go in, you can make it as in-depth as you want. They check the dark web to make sure your bank accounts haven't shown up, your name hasn't shown up, your just different information about you. But there are other companies that do that. LifeLock is one of them. McAfee's one of them, which I think is kind of ironic since that's the one that got my mom. Surfshark, Aura, they're all different companies that do this. Now, understand this: in email, in social media, if it looks too good to be true, it is. We're not going to get rich quick. We're going to get rich, if that's your goal, by hard work. And it's not going to happen on social media, and they're not going to call you and give you $1 million. It'd be nice if they did. One of the things that you can do is you can use what's called an RFID blocking wallet. You can get them on Amazon or whatever. Believe it or not, this is an RFID blocking wallet. And what that allows for is if somebody's walking past you, they can actually skim your wallet and get your credit card number off of your wallet. So they don't even have to bump you to do it. And it's just a better way. It reduces the ability for that reader to catch the signal from your credit card. I made Wes get one. James has one. So it's another way of protection. I would love to say that it's perfect protection, but there is no perfect protection. When using a credit card scanner, especially at the gas tanks, one of the things that you can do is, before you put your credit card in there, jiggle that scanner. Because if that comes right out, you're going to get scammed. And you would think, well, why would they do that? They can actually just click them into a scanner and you don't even know it. And so then at that point, you're going to give them your credit card information and they have it. So that's another way that you can protect yourself. Now, if you have, you put your credit card in there and you pull your credit card out and that skimmer comes out with it, stop what you're doing, call your bank, say, hey, I'm here at this address. I just ran my credit card. Something came out with the scanner. I think that there's a skimmer on that. And they will actually, at that point, because you didn't basically do that yourself, you were scammed, you were protected, report it to the company immediately, like go into the gas station or wherever you are and say, hey, this just came out of your credit card machine. You need to take care of it. I've called the police. And at that point, you really should call the police, because at that point, it's an illegal act. So, but the very last one that we have on this is personal contact. Just like as Christians, the way that we know the truth is we go to God first, right? It's the same thing with fraud prevention. Contact people personally. If you have questions or you think something strange, come ask me. I literally every month probably spend 10, 15 hours working on fraud prevention for our group. We look at it all the time because we want to be aware of what's new out there. I'm not perfect at it. I wouldn't even call myself what did Kelly call it, an expert on it, but I do it a lot. And I don't think you can ever be an expert on it because it changes every day. They are going to find a way. Have you guys ever seen the ads on people's lawn? Make $6,000 from home. You ever seen those? Do you know what those usually are? They're money moving scams. So what happens, somebody has a company like what I work for, and they say, hey, they've scammed you out of money. Well, they don't leave that money in that account because that would be a signature to the bank something's going on. They actually have grandma, mom, who wants to make some good money from home. They go in, they take that money out, and then they transfer it to another account. And that money is gone in the wind before you know it. And so that personal contact is your biggest protection for yourself. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, you can hang up on anybody and don't feel bad about it. Now, my mom, I probably wouldn't, if she's calling me asking for money, but, if somebody's saying, hey, you owe me money, my job is to say, prove it, right? Because if it's like Apple calling me and saying there's a problem with my Apple device, I don't have one, right? Or your Samsung device or whatever. And so they need to prove to you who they are. So go back, have contacts for your bank, keep a notebook. Hey, this is my bank account. This is the phone number to our local branch. This is the phone number to, whoever. And be willing to, if you need help, you're always welcome to call me too, because that's an area, I'm usually not a very confrontational person. I become very confrontational when it comes to fraud because they're just evil. But be willing to bite back. Don't accept what people are saying as far as you owe us this amount of money. Give it to me in writing. So be willing to push back, and anything that comes into your email, social media, phone, bark back at them. Okay, any questions? Now, I will say, if you're looking at any of this information for business, there are a few extra steps that you can take. I'm not necessarily going to say them on here, but I would be willing to talk to you about them because it's part of our process that we use at the mine, that we do not produce that for anybody because that's part of our protected procedure to try and protect ourselves. But if you do use that for a business, I can give you some other ideas for that as well to protect your company in how you receive banking from people. So, any questions? I knew it wouldn't take till noon, but a lot of times there's lots of questions and not, so just wanted to give you that opportunity. Nothing? All right, then we are done for the morning. Thank you guys for coming.